For nearly 10 years, a family claimed that something invisible walked the hallways of their home every single night. Doors opened on their own, beds shifted gently in the dark, and a presence seemed to watch them while they slept. But the most unsettling part wasn't the noises. It was that they all saw the same woman, an ancient, silent, deeply hostile figure. This is not a movie. This is the real case that inspired The Conjuring, and what happened inside the Perron house still divides the United States. In 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved with their 5 daughters into an old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. The property, known as the Old Arnold Estate, had been built in the 18th century. From the outside, it looked peaceful, surrounded by trees and far removed from the noise of the modern world. It was the kind of place that promised quiet, privacy, and tranquility. But from the very first day, something felt off. It wasn't immediate or dramatic. It was subtle. A broom appeared where no one had left it. A door drifted open for no clear reason. A faint whisper echoed when no one else was in the room. At first, they ignored it. Old houses make noises, they told themselves. But the incidents didn't stop. They repeated every night at the same hour. Caroline was the first to realize this wasn't just an old house settling. Some mornings, she woke with small bruises she couldn't explain, with no memory of bumping into anything. At times, she felt as though someone stood in the hallway watching her. The girls began talking quietly among themselves. They said they weren't alone. One of them looked at her mother and calmly said, "Mom, someone doesn't want us here." There was no panic in her voice, only certainty. As the months passed, the descriptions became clearer. They spoke of a woman thin, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, with an intense and unwavering stare. Sometimes, she stood silently in the corner of a room, observing. Other times, she seemed irritated, especially when she was near Caroline, as if something about her presence was personal. Concerned, Caroline began researching the history of the property. What she found was unsettling. The land held more than 2 centuries of history. It had passed through several families, and during those years there had been tragedies, unexpected deaths, family disputes, and stories never fully explained. But one name surfaced again and again: Bathsheba Sherman. Bathsheba was a real woman who lived in the 19th century. According to local legend, she had been linked to the death of a child in her care. She was never officially convicted, but suspicion followed her for the rest of her life. Some believed she practiced strange rituals. Others believed she had simply been the victim of rumor and fear. What is known is that she died under circumstances that only deepened the mystery, and she was buried not far from the property. For Caroline, the connection felt impossible to ignore. The figure she had been seeing matched that description. As the years went on, the activity intensified. Beds vibrated slightly in the early hours of the morning. Footsteps echoed from the attic. Strange odors appeared without warning and disappeared just as quickly. The girls later said that not every presence felt threatening. Some felt neutral, even protective, as though multiple energies coexisted within the same walls. But one presence felt different, stronger, heavier, and increasingly focused on Caroline. She began experiencing moments where she felt detached from herself, along with a sensation of being pushed though no one was there. Whispers seemed to form her name in the dark. The atmosphere inside the house grew tense, and the family realized they needed help. That was when they contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, investigators known across the United States for their work with paranormal cases. Lorraine, who claimed heightened sensitivity to spiritual activity, said she immediately felt multiple presences in the home. According to her, not all of them were negative, but one stood apart, a dominant entity connected to the history of the land. The Warrens conducted investigations inside the house, making audio recordings, offering prayers, and attempting communication. Eventually, one evening, they decided to conduct a more intense session. It was not a formal exorcism, but it was an attempt to directly confront whatever was there. During the session, Caroline entered an altered state. Her body stiffened. Her voice shifted slightly, and the air in the room felt heavy. Roger Perron, alarmed and protective of his wife, demanded that it stop immediately. The session ended abruptly, and the Warrens left soon after. Despite everything, the family did not move out right away. They remained in the house for nearly 10 years. The girls grew up there. What began as fear slowly became a strange form of familiarity. Some later described certain presences as almost watchful, but not cruel. Still, the figure associated with Bathsheba remained the most intense. In 1980, the family finally left the property. They attempted to move forward to a Startober, but the experience stayed with them. Decades later, the story reached Hollywood. In 2013, The Conjuring introduced the Perron case to millions. The film dramatizes events and heightens certain moments, but the foundation, the Perron family, and their time in Rhode Island is real. Andrea Perron, one of the daughters, later wrote books describing their experiences in detail. To this day, she insists that what happened inside that house was real, and this is where the story divides. Skeptics argue it was collective suggestion, stress amplified by isolation, or the power of belief inside an old, quiet house. But believers point to something else. 5 daughters, 2 parents, nearly a decade of consistent testimony, and a story that has never changed. The house still stands today, quiet, weathered, unassuming. Some visitors claim they feel something the moment they step inside. Others feel nothing at all. Perhaps the real question isn't whether the Perrons told the truth, but why. After more than 40 years, every member of that family continues to tell the same story without contradiction, without hesitation. Some houses hold memories. Others seem to hold something more. And somewhere in Rhode Island, an old farmhouse still stands in the dark, whispering its story to anyone willing to listen.